was inspired by the people and places I knew in Wicker Park in the 90s, and they're not there anymore. Everyone I knew from the neighborhood is gone, has been forcibly removed or pushed out of the neighborhood for a myriad of reasons, or are in jail or dead. And I wanted to remember them. I wanted to have a sense of what that community was like, and kind of ask questions about what cities and neighborhoods can be moving forward. Because that was such an important time for me as a young person, as a young artist, and that kind of community is not really in Chicago anymore. I mean, or it moves around, and the working people who were there and the working artists that were there are no longer. And so I wanted to remember them in that way. I think writers naturally reminisce. I think we're kind of self-important in some ways, where we often recall our own experiences as a way to generate new ideas and new material. And so it was exciting to think about myself 20 some odd years ago, and also hilarious at times. And I've got myself involved in a bunch of very dumb shit in the day and wouldn't make those same choices now. But I also know that I got very lucky because I came up with so many people who didn't make it, and I'm lucky that I persevered and pushed through and am able to tell the story now, and I feel really fortunate to be able to do that. I met Langston at an art show he did at North and Kedzie, and I was already writing this book and had been inspired by graphic novels in order to come up with these portraits that I was writing, and knew at some point I wanted to engage with an illustrator or a visual artist who could do justice to these portraits I was essentially making. And when I walked into the storefront that was Langston's essentially like illustrated life-size cartoon, graphic novel, comic book come to life, I'm like, damn, dude, this is dude. And I believe in synchronicity, and I believe in taking advantage of situations that present themselves. And so pretty quickly, I was like, yo, I'm working on this thing, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to build? And he, fortunately, he said, yeah.
I guess the first time that Kevin really approached me about the project was kind of the first time that we met. He came to the first show I ever did in Chicago, which was about 2 years ago, and I had made this whole installation. And he saw the way that I had illustrated Humboldt Park, which was like the place where the show happened, and was like interested in how I was like observing like buildings and people and like landmarks in the area, and kind of recreating them as illustrations. And I think that he kind of just like got the idea that I might be able to illustrate some of his poetry. And then I like came to him with some little drawings of poems that I had made, and was like, look, I can do this. And he was like, cool, like let's talk about it. A lot of it comes from Kevin's like memories of Wicker Park, but most of the illustrations, or the inspiration, the direct inspiration for the illustrations, comes from like my observations of gentrification in neighborhoods that I'm in. So both neighborhoods that I'm in New Orleans, which are gentrifying really rapidly, and then neighborhoods that I'm in Chicago when I come and stay here, which are also experiencing like similar phenomenons. So while the book is really about like Kevin's experience seeing Wicker Park change, the illustrations and like the visual material that I'm coming up with is coming from like my experience of like similar moments but in different places. I think like the idea of the book is really to like make a portrait of like the things that we find to be like beautiful about like these neighborhoods and these people, and like kind of create like a memorial for them. I think the book does that pretty effectively, and I'm like just trying to like keep up with the illustrations and create like portraits of people that maybe I've never known but remind me of people that I have known. And like a lot of the poems are like that, like a lot of the poems are of people that like Kevin has known and loved, and they somehow like resonate with me or remind me of my own like loved ones or my own memories. And so it's actually been like kind of a process of taking his images that he creates and like translating them into my experiences so that I can make art that's like honest to what I've seen. So I've been like working on a whole series of paintings that's gonna like debut at Gallery F on September 6th. and it's they're all inspired by poems from the book, and also by the same themes as are in the book, but they're like just like a whole set of paintings that are also about summer in Chicago and like the way that that looks and the way that it is to like be here during that time. So they're paintings in color, not in black and white, and they're like really focusing on light and like the details of like people's interactions as they move through the city. The way that people move around in the summertime is like so different here than the way it is when they move around in the wintertime. So you can like really see that stark difference. And I'm just trying to like capture that moment as best I can in these paintings, at the same time as capturing like these concepts of like gentrification and erasure and pushing people out. But really it's like portraits of people, portraits of regular people, working class portraiture, I think Kevin called it one time. So that's what the paintings are of.
Boy becomes man in the park, sips brass monkey from a corner store bought with $1 and change. He heard it in the Beastie Boys song. His ID says he's old enough to drink alone in the new city. It's near midnight on a Friday. The streets swell with folks, but the boy will not speak to someone for days. During days off, he'll watch. He'll lose track of time. He'll learn the city by listening to it halt and grind and fire. The boy will aspire, but for now, there's a corkscrew unfurled in his hand for the walk home. His pocket got a knot in it. Tips scrambled for the little he makes. He scrambles, scared someone will fuck with him, scared no one will fuck with him. The new city's burped and birthed him, got him drunk and taught him how to hold liquor, how to piss in an alley, how to run and cut through an alley, how to open someone's face like a bottle of wine.